live and alert on the north side of the dirt. It is your man D Real coming at you with another Be Real with D Real, where edutainment is what I do. Saturday, yeah, I know. I said I wasn't going to do no video Saturday, but then suddenly it occurred to me that Friday was the birthday of one George Perez. I would be remiss if I did not do a video honoring George Perez, just like I did last year. So, that being said, George Perez, born June 9th, 1954, in New York City, South Bronx, South Bronx. And he transitioned on May 6th, which happens to be the birthday of well, close to the birthday of my mother, in Sanford, Florida. He was 67 years old. He hit us with so much amazing stuff, and I can't talk about it enough. Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Infinity Gauntlet, runs on the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Teen Titans, Wonder Woman. He was all over the place at Marvel as well as DC. Kind of stopped doing art as much in the early 2000s. Of course, as we all know, died from complications related to pancreatic cancer. He is survived by his spouse of many years, Carol Flynn, as well as several other family members. I think more than any other, and I've said this before last time, I think I've been impacted, probably with the possible exception of somebody like a John Byrne, Alex Ross. I've been impacted by George Perez more than any other artist. I would venture to say, ever. Why? He's got so much great stuff. But before we get off into all of his great stuff, I need y'all to do what you always do for me. Comment, like, subscribe, and share the Be Real with D Real page so that when the material comes out, you get it. If you're digging what a brother's shoveling, put some dirt in my bucket. Comment, like, subscribe, and share the page. Look here, y'all. Yeah, we should have naught but love for this man's art. This is what George Perez gave us in 1998 when he returned to the Avengers comic along with Kurt Busiek. Kurt Busiek was on writing chores along with George Perez, who was also doing the art. That is a good chunk of Avengers from all eras, from the 60s to the 80s to the 90s. They did a very good job of representing the Avengers in this image. Didn't do a lot of X-Men, but when he did get to do X-Men, this is what you got. Amazing artwork from an amazing artiste. Now, a lot of people, when we talk about George Perez, we talk about these big battle sequences, him cramming a lot of characters on the page. But he was also pretty damn good at putting one character on the page. Look at this wet picture of Black Widow. She's getting ready to hurt somebody. And it's obvious in this picture. And that is very well conveyed. The mark of an amazing artist. Now, that is in our common lexicon. It is a cultural norm. This is where you first saw it. Again, George Perez. Thank you, George Perez. Why are those infinity stones not the same color as the infinity stones on Infinity War and Endgame? I will not honor that question with a response. If you don't know, it's time for you to Google. Everybody should know why. Oh, and look there. Adam Warlock, not looking like an idiot like he did in Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know why they did that to him. That was just heinous. You can't make a caricature of a character and expect fans of that character to be okay with it. George Perez, respectful of source material. Ooh, fancy that. That is an image, again, another image from that 1998 run. This is transformed Avengers who are designed to serve the will of one Morgan Le Fay, time displaced at that. These are a group, they are, excuse me, a group collectively known as the Queen's Vengeance. Yeah, they seem to look like a lot of Avengers that you are familiar with, and that's because George Perez drew them. He gave them a distinctly different look from what they normally look like, but he also made it obvious who they were pattern after. Most of them. You can look at most of these characters, and most of them are drastically different from what they normally look like, with the possible exception of maybe Hercules and Tigra. But you still recognize who the characters are. Again, the mark of a great artist, or just somebody who does what their editor tells them to do. Either way, it's beautiful art. And this classic picture, um, they could have did it so much better in the movie Age of Ultron. But yeah, that was again that 98 run. That 98 run was amazing. And just so y'all don't think being Avengers heavy. Yeah, your man, along with Marv Wolfman, was responsible for revamping some stuff in the DC universe and made the Teen Titans super cool. This iteration, or at least most of this iteration, is what's used in Teen Titan animated movies, television shows. Pretty much anything you see the Teen Titans in, you are going to see some version or combination of these characters. Where's your first see them? Right there. New Teen Titans, #1, Marv Wolfman, George Perez, put it down like 1,000 pounds. Now, George Perez got his start, or should I say most of his start, in very strange places. Very, very strange places. This comic book is the first actual work that George Perez did in a comic book. It was a two-page, I think like a two-page sort of like backup story in this comic. Marvel.com took it out. I don't know why, but if you get the original comic, you'll get that little, blurb of art. But then actual art that George Perez did in a comic, that would be this one right here. What? Deadly Hands of Kung Fu #20. Wow. With a big old Chuck Norris picture on the cover. Yeah, that Deadly Hands of Kung Fu wasn't just a comic book. It was actually like a kung fu karate aficionado kind of a book. If you were a fan of martial arts in the 70s, then you rocked with this book. Now, what was so important about this book right here? It introduced for the very first time, yep, first ever appearance of the White Tiger. Tiger. Yep, good old Hector Ayala. And George Perez was Puerto Rican. Ha! Surprise! See, he was caping for his own even back then. That's the first project, but he didn't limit himself to that. He went on to create all kinds of original characters and had runs on comics like Wonder Woman in DC, Superman, Justice League, not to mention the Teen Titans, along with a couple of other magazines. George Perez got work throughout the 70s and the 80s, thanks to Marvel and DC. In addition, in 2003, George Perez gave us this right here. I don't know if you can see that off the glare, but JLA Avengers. Yeah, it was $5.95. This is a cardboard cover comic. One of them is just them meeting. That's issue 1. Issue 2, they're squaring off, and we get to answer a lot of questions like who'd win a fight between Batman and Captain America, who's more stretchy, who's the tougher god, who's the tougher strong man. All of that was settled in this book. Then in this book, they became one great big old kind of squad, team up, that sort of thing. And then we get, of course, the iconic fourth cover, Superman wielding Mjolnir and Cap's shield. George Perez, iconic art. Remember these guys? The Salem 7? Wow, I forgot all about those guys. Uh-huh. Yeah. Thank you, George Perez. Thank you, George Perez, for giving us so many wonderful memories in comics. That's a visual. That's a pictorial. I hope y'all enjoyed this book. I mean, this video. Don't look at it any other way except as a memorial, a salute. Doesn't have anything to do with the color of this man's skin. Doesn't have anything to do with his nationality, his ethnicity, but everything to do with the fact that he brought us great art. Period. Bar none. Amazing art. And rest in power. George Perez, I appreciate you personally for everything, how you inspired me and made me want to read comics more, because I'm like, who else gonna rock the page like George Perez rocked the page? And several other artists came along that may have rivaled, but he was a one of a kind, period. Singularly incredible artist. And like I said, I couldn't let this weekend get by without paying homage to one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, Mr. George Perez. Rest in power, George. Again, appreciate everything that you did in the comics industry, the inroads you made, the original things you did, the indelible, iconic images that you have put in my mind and in the minds of so many other people. Thank you, and rest in power. That's it for now, y'all. But fret not, I will be coming at you with another one of the mother ones. And until I do, y'all be good. Be good to each other.